Aurodeep, hi. Great to speak with you. Tamanna here. And, this is a very important conversation because you know that NDA is coming back, but the BJP is being looked at slightly hampered politically compared to before. So you have now two chief ministers who have a big voice as well in what happens in the NDA, Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar, who have been popular leaders or come back to power in the case of Chandrababu Naidu on the back of a lot of promises to the electorate. So that is question number one. Do you see a comeback of welfare politics / populist politics? Because what you call it depends on which way you see it.
Well, look, I think it's too early at this stage, right? Because a lot of things are sort of falling in place as we speak. I think it'd be really interesting to watch exactly what you're speaking about, which is the political parleys that take place over the next few days in terms of what's on offer, who's on which camp, etc., etc. I think in terms of policies and in terms of whether there's be a fiscal cost to it, I think one, the BJP would have to do some soul searching into what's behind this result. And if there are issues like unemployment and inflation, which by the way had come up in opinion polls before the elections, and if there's need to course correct there. But having said that, our baseline view is that there's not going to be a massive sort of diversion away from macro prudence that we have currently. Growth with macro stability has been a consistent mantra of the government, and it has paid dividends. We've had S&P change its outlook to positive for India. A big part of that is because India's fiscal glide path is sort of more credible now than it was in a long time. So all of that, I think, comes on the back of very sound policy making. So I don't think that there will be a complete reversal of that. What could happen possibly is a rejig of the RevX versus CapEx. So the government may choose to keep CapEx as a ratio of GDP where it is, and then focus a bit more on RevX. But again, I think a lot of those details will come up as the budget comes up. But as of now, our baseline case is that macro prudence still remains at the forefront.
Okay, so Aurodeep, I get your point that it will take some time. I'm just wondering what this welfare politics even looks like, because the core scheme of free rations of 5 kgs, which is to 80 crore people plus, has already been promised to be extended for the next 5 years. You're already, giving a payment every month to farmers. So what else can be added on this?
I mean, the question that needs to be asked is not how you pile on handouts, but more of where is it that that voters are discontent, right? And how do you address those issues? So for instance, if one of the issues is unemployment, right, then giving an additional kilo of rice will not solve that paradigm, right? So, or if it is, say, as they keep saying, mehengai, right? So if it's the cost of living crisis, then it's not enough to just sort of give another handout and be done with it. So I think if there has to be a way to address it, I don't think it will be as simple as let's announce a scheme. And also, by the way, the free food scheme that you spoke of, we've been having Food Security Act for a very long time, even before this. Earlier, they would be charged around 1 rupee, 2 rupee, etc. for these wheat and rice per kilo. It's only that which has been waived off. Indians are still getting the same quota of 5 kg as they got before the pandemic. So I don't think populism has sort of dramatically increased. We've kept the line there. And I think in terms of the political side of it, I would be very surprised if the answer to this is something as blatant as just announcing more handouts. I mean, one of the things we flagged in our note last night is, there could be, for instance, a lot of resentment maybe against the Agniveer scheme. So kind of relooking at some of the policies, seeing if they are indeed delivering on the ground. You need more such policies to deliver the outcomes. I think the outcome is more important than just the policy announcement in New Delhi. And I think that's where the focus is likely to be.
Aurodeep, you made a very important point about just not increasing a kilo or two of free food. This ties up with what the Prime Minister said in his pre-election interview to us. He said that welfare schemes will be the focus, poverty eradication will be the focus, but we will do it through asset creating model. Now, how does that work? Is it possible to have welfare schemes which will create assets?
I think the way my sense is that the government has a vision of sort of increasing growth, and then that growth resulting in dividends on the ground, and then supporting this growth narrative with support, with sort of handouts or supports wherever it's needed, like a fill in the blank thing. So if it's, for instance, affordable housing, you give some support, some subsidy, which is very targeted and kind of just achieves a part of a larger vision, right? So I think the main plank of the government still remains delivering growth. And I think the challenge which the government has is making that growth as inclusive as possible. I mean, you were mentioning with the previous guest how India's growth is strong, which is the case. But it's also happening in sectors, say, like financial, real estate, professional services, where it could be contributing a lot to the headline growth, but ends up employing much lesser people. So I think the focus will be on getting factor-side reforms. In fact, I mean, I'm pretty enthused by the 125 or the 100-day agenda, sort of things that are coming up in the media, because it seems that the new government is likely to be focused on things like digitalization of land records, of judicial records. They're talking of new urban cities, new urban centers. If I'm not mistaken, 100 billion rupees budget for that. They're talking of things that of making India EV hub, on auto hub, which is actually the right way to think about distributing growth across the population. So I think that still remains the major plank of the government, and any other welfareism, or howsoever you put it, will be sort of a way to complement this package.
Just one question, Aurodeep. Neeraj here. Good morning. And that is the deviation from what could have been in an absolute majority, an X amount laid out for capex, which might have to be divvied up a little bit between capex and maybe some welfare schemes, right? Because the pot is limited. Does that lower the allure of the multiplier effect that a spend on capex / infrastructure brings to the table in the next 5 years?
Look, I don't think it's going to be as clinical as that, right? And first, because I think this is a slightly premature discussion, because we don't know what the priorities of the new government are going to be. That is something that we will discover in the course of the next month or so. We also don't know if there's going to be some reflationary policies coming up because of this. And I don't think, again, our core view is that it's not likely to be something like, here, take another additional kilo of rice, and where will we get that from? Okay, let's build one less road. I don't think it'll be as simple as that. I think India's public capex push has is supporting growth as of now. It's a very important component of the growth story. So I don't think that's going to be just diluted away. At max, it might be kept at the same ratio as a proportion of GDP. I think in terms of the fiscal side, because a lot of this seems to be around the number, there are three things that have happened on the fiscal side that's actually a positive for the fiscal hawks. One is the obvious, which is RBI dividends going to the government. The extra amount that the government now has to play with is around 0.4% of GDP. The other thing that may have slipped through the radar is that the FY24 fiscal deficit, which was at 5.8% of GDP as of revised estimates, has actually come down to 5.6% of GDP. So there's you already have a 0.4% of GDP extra to play with from the RBI. You have a 0.2% of GDP also in terms of a lower starting point than you previously had. And then S&P's kind of direction of an upgrade clearly says that they're looking at a medium-term fiscal path of 7% of GDP consolidated for center and state, which if you back calculate would mean 4% of GDP in the medium term for the center. Now, the center's current medium-term fiscal consolidation is FY26 at 4.5% of GDP. So 5.6, we have 5.1 now, and 4.5% of GDP in FY26. In fact, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the interim budget had said that she might even, India might even cross 4.5% in FY26. So then the question that comes is, what is the new, so to speak, fiscal glide path that is going to happen beyond FY26? And I don't think that that's going to be heavily compromised away. I think it might take a bit longer than has been this rapid pace of consolidation we've seen so far. So that might take over a longer process, but I think fiscal consolidation will still happen.
Yeah, no question marks on that. The only question was whether there is a deviation from what is, and of course it's a premature discussion. It's a bit of a hypothesis, but that's what we do on a day after the results, any which ways. But Aurodeep, fantastic talking to you today. Thank you for your time, and maybe post the budget, we should try and have another conversation on these thoughts as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks for your time today.